It was an ordinary day at the auto shop. Tools clattered loudly as mechanics moved from car to car. Grease smudged across floors, fingers, and machines. The air was thick with motor oil and that ever-present hint of gasoline. But today wasn't about routine. Today was about frustration. In the center of the garage sat a sleek, high-performance sports car. Its engine, once powerful, was now silent. Mechanics had been trying to revive it for hours. Spark plugs adjusted. Fuel lines checked. Nothing worked. "I've had enough," Frank growled, wiping his hands on his overalls. "What is it with this engine? We've tried everything. Maybe it's cursed," one of the guys joked, tossing a tool onto the workbench in defeat. They replaced the battery, checked the system top to bottom. Still nothing. The car wouldn't start, and morale was slipping fast. At that moment, Mike, the shop's janitor, walked by, mop in hand, humming to himself. Quiet, unassuming, reliable as sunrise. He kept the shop clean, ran the coffee pot, and never got in anyone's way. Until today. Greg, the new guy still figuring out the shop's rhythm, couldn't resist a jab. "Hey Mike, want to give this a shot?" he called out with a smirk. "You've been here longer than any of us. Maybe you've got the magic touch." The other mechanics chuckled. Frank raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, Mike, let's see what you've got." Mike paused mid-swipe. Was this a joke? Probably, but he set the mop down anyway, still not sure if he should actually go through with it. "Well," Mike said, drying his hands on his overalls, "I guess it couldn't hurt to take a look." Silence. Every eye turned to him. They weren't laughing now, just curious. Mike walked toward the car, slow and calm. No one had ever seen him near an engine before. He crouched beside the car, didn't speak, didn't rush. He just studied it. His hands, free of grease, moved with focus. He examined the details. Not guessing, not poking around, just observing. Greg leaned in, skeptical. "Wait, Mike, you don't actually know how to fix this, do you?" Mike didn't respond. He reached toward the timing belt, running a finger along its edge. "Timing belt's off by a tooth," he said, coolly. "You might want to check that." The shop went dead quiet. Frank stepped forward. "The timing's fine," he said, frowning. "What do you mean off by a tooth?" Mike didn't argue. He simply nodded toward the engine. "Check it." Frank hesitated, but something about Mike's voice, steady, confident, made him lean in for a closer look. There it was, just a fraction of misalignment, small enough to miss, big enough to kill the engine. Frank's breath caught. He'd missed it. They all had. "Holy damn," he muttered. Mike was already grabbing a wrench. He adjusted the belt with quiet precision, tightened the bolts, and stepped back. Then, without a word, he walked back to his mop. Frank stood frozen, then turned the key. The engine roared to life. Perfect. Clean. Like it had never been broken. Everyone stared at Mike in disbelief. "The janitor just fixed it," Greg whispered, stunned. Mike didn't look back. He was already mopping again. The shop stayed silent for a long beat. Only the hum of the engine filled the space. Frank was still holding the key, his eyes glued to the machine that had tormented them for hours. How had Mike seen what they all missed? Greg shook his head, baffled. "No way that just happened." Frank turned to face him. He didn't miss anything. The belt was off just like he said. "But how?" Greg asked. "He's just the janitor. He never even touches the engines." Frank rubbed the back of his neck, still trying to wrap his head around it. "I don't know, man. But we need to find out." "Mike!" Frank called, louder now. No answer. He kept mopping, quiet as ever. Frank stepped forward. "Mike?" he repeated, firmer. This time Mike paused, set his mop aside, walked over, calm as ever. "You all right?" Frank asked. "You just fixed a problem no one else could solve." Mike met his eyes, didn't answer right away. Then he shrugged. "Used to be a mechanic," he said, "before this job. Did it for a while, but life happened. I needed something simpler." Frank blinked. "You're telling me you were a master mechanic?" Mike nodded. "Yeah, for a few years, but that was a long time ago. Now, I just mop floors." The words hung in the air. The quiet guy in the background, the one nobody paid attention to, had been the most skilled man in the shop all along. The rest of the team gathered around, listening. Greg stepped forward, sheepish now. You mean, you could have been fixing cars this whole time? Mike smiled faintly. Didn't think anyone would believe me. And honestly, I wasn't looking to get back into it. Too much stress. I like things simple. Frank let out a slow breath. You could have told us. Mike just shrugged again. I'm happy doing what I do. No pressure, no expectations. Frank stared at him, then laughed softly. Well, you sure proved us wrong. Around the shop, heads nodded. Respect hung heavy in the air. Mike had reminded them of something important, that skill and value aren't always loud. Sometimes, they're sweeping the floor, just listening, until the moment they step up and change everything. From that day on, Mike wasn't just the janitor anymore. They started calling him the Engine Whisperer. The nickname stuck partly in jest, but mostly out of real, earned respect. He never asked for the spotlight, but it found him anyway. And for everyone in that garage, one truth became crystal clear: never judge a book by its cover, because sometimes the quietest one in the room is the one who knows exactly what to do.